Yeah. How you guys doing? Try it? How long is it?
Yes.
An hour. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Have a seat and enjoy yourselves.
Passing off merit back to us, yes. Malone, I haven't seen you for a while.
Yeah, I'm trying to look mature.
Ah, yeah. So are you going to the game on the 18th?
I haven't bought tickets yet.
We've been trying to figure out the same thing.
Airfare is expensive.
We've just been looking for a hotel.
But try, I think we're gonna try. Yeah, maybe I'll just drive and then see the game and then just drive.
Sleep.
It'll be worth it.
I'm getting more and more to like, I got a nice TV. I'm just gonna stay in the basement. How are you doing?
How are you?
So there.
Do me a favor. Yeah. Kind of like your Corey or me presenting board. Just stand right over there.
Next, go to next right here.
Yeah,
That's probably what we need.
that's what I need. I got it.
Very good.
Fine.
Hey, neighbor Nancy. Yeah. Said came along. By the days. No, yes.
Hopefully.
Okay. I didn't think it was interesting. Full of your computer situation.
What's that?
I tried to see the crime thing. I just got a thing here. All this.
Well, she's gonna read.
So I thought, well, of course it happens.
I hope it's not blank anymore.
Last night, so let's see.
Oh, I was working on it last night.
Oh, that one, okay.
I could be. It's fine. Okay.
Okay, well, I think it's 6:30. Okay, well, welcome to our school board meeting. We call this meeting to order. I see we have a bunch of scouts here. Welcome. I'm excited to see you, and I have some that I know personally. So welcome to our board meeting tonight. I hope you can learn something, and we appreciate you taking your time to be here. Citizenship in the community merit badge? Is that what?
Communication.
Communications. Excellent. We'll try hard. Might be scary. Okay. So we're going to begin, I guess I should speak into this. Yeah. We're going to begin with our, no, we're not. He's not here. Carry on. So
Sorry, Gary's had a cold for 2 or 3 days.
Okay, so excuse Gary, and we're also, Tiffany is absent tonight as well, just make note of that, that she had a family commitment, so she won't be here as well. Yes, Nancy will do our reverence, and then Karen will do our flag salute pledge allegiance.
Our Father in heaven, we're so very grateful for the opportunity we have of meeting at the school board meeting, and particularly for this festive time of year. We're so very grateful for the opportunity we have to connect better with our fellow man and to help those around us as we strive to provide Christmas cheer and spirit to the many people with whom we work and serve. We're so very grateful for our teachers, for our students, for our administrators, and those that work so hard to help our students grow and progress. We ask now that thy spirit will be with us. Please help us as we study the issues and work on the policy of the district, that we will be guided to do the best that we can for those with whom we work. And this we pray for in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Please join me in
I pledge
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Nancy and Karen. Tonight, we have a recognition. Connie's going to read that recognition for us.
As of the 6th of December, there was a press release that came from the Utah High School Activities Association. It was something that I sure I do so much support, and that is they recognized our very own Wade Walton as the Music Educator of the Year at River High School. Wade, would you please stand? Tiffany has written a really nice tribute to Mr. Walton, and it goes as follows. The Box Elder School District Board of Education and Leadership Team would like to congratulate you for being awarded the Utah High School Activities Association 2021 Music Educator of the Year. And may I say, it's long overdue. I added that. This award honors you as an outstanding contributor to Utah High School activities, and we want to join the UHSAA in recognizing your outstanding work with our students at Bear River High School. Mr. Walton, you have a gift of connecting with students. Is that valuable? Absolutely. And inspiring them to give their very best effort. We recognize that it takes a very organized, dedicated, and multi-talented professional to teach 21 sections of choir, band, orchestra, and your guitar classes. Your madrigals, band, jazz band, and marching band students are excellent performers, and it's obvious that these students are having an incredibly positive experience participating in these groups. Thank you for your time and your effort, and the effort you give to your students and the music program at Bear River High School. With sincere appreciation and congratulations, the Board of Education, the Box Elder District Leadership Team. Thank you, Mr. Walton.
Just want to give him that letter. Normally, if they're not here, we can send it, but since you're here, you can just have it in person. So,
Thank you for being here.
thank you.
That's a wonderful honor. We really appreciate what you're doing for our students, and
Here,
it's amazing.
picture for the camera, or for the newspaper.
Can I make another recognition? School board member is the Sterling Scholar.
Thank you. So, Mr. Walton, can I ask you a question?
Please.
Did I hear you do band, jazz band, choir, madrigals? Like you're what?
And guitar.
And this guitar.
And guitar.
I don't do the orchestra.
You don't do orchestra. Wow, that is impressive. That is a wide array of skills. So thank you for your dedication and service.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks for being here. Okay, ready for an approval of the agenda? Okay, so we have a motion by, excuse me, Karen Cronin, and a second by Wade Hyde to approve the agenda. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, so our first item on the agenda is our school fees discussion. And so I'm going to turn the time over to Keith Meekum to kind of explain that for us.
And we'll do public comment after.
And we do public comment now.
Okay. So, little background. For years and years and years and years and years, we had a very generic school fee schedule, and a lot of the fees that were being assessed weren't really necessarily showing up on this fee schedule. As the state has put a bigger microscope on school fees in general, we've been able to become more transparent of what fees are, how much they are, what they're going for, and we really feel good about the things that we've done. Just right now, currently, this a year ago, the school board approved school fees, and it had it broken down. It's on our website. It's also, schools at the school websites as well, but it gives you a flavor of what is it going to look like if you're going to go to school at Bear River High School, Box Elder High School, Sunrise, all the different fees, associated with that. In addition, we have the intermediate and middle schools, and then we also have, which seems to be the largest bulk of this, which is extracurricular activities, clubs, non-co-curricular, all of these types of things. So anyway, we're coming a long ways. I will state that as we get into this new year of 22-23, I might add, just since 2 years ago, this little Bear River High School 114 in the lower left, that number used to be 163. So it took us 2 years, but there were certain rules and regulations by the state, and that has dropped this number. So this current year, sorry, got this thing right here because I'm sharing my screen. This current year, that number's at 144. But beginning next year, we're taking away a fee that is no longer possible, which was a digital content fee. Oops, that's not what I want. And so what we've traditionally done is when we've used that fee to buy Chromebooks. Well, now through other avenues, we now are going to buy our Chromebooks another way. We've taken this off of every parent. That'll be decreased by $30. So from an academic standpoint, we're proposing that, again, we drop it down further from 163 to 114 or 144, and then this year to 114 at the high school level. The only thing I did find out, I put this in green just to remind me, but if a kid that goes to Bridgerland and they're a high school kid and they're on a fee waiver, their fees for Bridgerland are waived. They're treated just like it was a high school. And there was a little confusion on whether that was the case, but that does apply.
Now, Keith,
Yes.
my understanding at Richardland is they're not charging any kid any fees regardless. Now, if it's a project class where they have to buy specific things,
Then they have to buy that,
they do.
the
some
equipment or
things. But
whatever.
the overall fees, Richardland has waived all overall fees for all.
When I talked to them about 10 days ago, they didn't inform me of that. So if that is the case, that's great. They just said that if a kid is on a fee waiver, all their fees are gone.
It's been the August
Oh,
board meeting.
that's
They
good.
said there's no fees.
So they didn't mention that to me, but if that's the case, that's outstanding. I will also state, if you want to look at the middle level, again, this used to be $30 more, from 83, do the math, that's good. And then into the intermediate schools, these are dropping down to 67 and 38. So our fees are taking a tumble for academics, which helps parents on the back end. And we're excited about that particular thing.
One thing, this won't affect that maybe, but I don't know, Governor, Governor Cox's proposed budget for education, one of his proposals is to eliminate academic fees or curricular fees for all schools. He's put aside like 55 million or something for that. And that would be part of his job, whether it passes legislature or not, that was part of his proposed budget that he did yesterday. So if that's the
And if
case,
that would be the case, the school board approves this in January and then we get that law to pass, I'm sure we could do a revisement and
Yeah, we
we
could.
could decrease this money from parents so that they wouldn't have to pay that fee.
Yeah.
Now, let me go to what's, I want everybody to have an open mind about what I'm about ready to say. I want everybody to be open-minded because I don't want anybody falling out of their chairs. Make sure you got strapped up, you're sitting good. Okay. What? Really? I said that, yeah. So looking back at the 21-22, our current year, okay? I just want you to notice some numbers. Every kid that participates in an extracurricular activity pays a $10 drug testing. There is a participation sport. That number has not been changed since 2008. And in 2008, there was, when the economy went down and gas prices went to $4.50 to $5, then there was a $25 fee. So it was $45, but the money that came in, or I didn't do the math right. It went up 25. So what is that? Yeah, it was 45. So, and before that, 1993, when I first came to the district, it was 45. Like that fee has not changed. And obviously we know that nothing's gone up since 1993. But I want to point out that, you know, that's where we've been paying this. And then every sport would come in here and baseball would say, I think I need 200. Well, that 200 plus the 70 plus the 10, we're at 280. They go to St. George for 3 days. That's another 180. And so all of this creates this, I feel like even though we're more articulate and transparent, it does show that we're somewhat nickel and diamond people. Well, we got 200 here. We got 180. You didn't tell me, and jeepers. Now we got 70 and this 10. And then we got off-season summer camps and geez, they just keep charging us. Sorry, I'm a little excited. I apologize. But here's what I want to show you. I'm like, what are people around us doing? Because Bear River participates in Region 11, which is Cache School District and Logan School District. Box Elder participates in Region 5, which is Weaver School District and Davis School District. So we're trying to compete against these regions. How are our fees compared to what they? And I just thought, I'm going to go do a little research. So I will try to make this as big as you guys can see. Maybe that's even.
It's good.
Is that not bad? For you, maybe in the back, that's a little yucky. Let me go a little further. We can't go to 200. That'll just be crazy. Yeah, that's not too bad though, actually. So I just did a little comparison. Participation fee, cash, it's $70, but it's included in the cost of the sport. And I'll show you what that means. Logan, included in the cost of the sport. Weaver, $85, but including the cost of the sport. Davis, $70, it's not included. Drug testing, 10, 22, included, didn't know what the cost was, couldn't find it, and $5. Transportation, part of our participation fee goes to transportation. It's $20. $30 at cash, 15 for Weaver, $20 per season. Again, not part of Weaver's. Gate fees, uniform fees for sports that buy their own fee or that buy their own uniform. They obviously don't pay a uniform fee. But if I'm going to use a uniform for multiple years, after a while, those have to be replaced. And so cash actually has a uniform fee so that for basketball and football in particular, after 3-4 years, you can buy the $250 uniform that replaces the uniform that's been used. Anyway, so I would just draw you to just a couple of things here. First column is Box Elder. Second column is Cash. Third column is Logan. Fourth column is Weber. And fifth column is Davis. Now,
That's why
keep
our
in
kids
mind-
want to look better.
What's that?
That's why our kids want better uniforms.
I'm just telling you a couple things about who we compete against. Weber, or excuse me, Davis is 700 across the board. And then they get to cheer, color guard, and drill, and they raise it. But they also have this extra 70, 20, and 5 that goes up and beyond the 700. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, if they have any kind of extended travel, that's not part of that number. They could go up to $1,000. I just wanted to show you Weber, 860, 860, 810, 910, 880, 860, 860, 860, 835, 2020 for cheerleaders of Weber School District. And if they travel, it's another 1,000. Color guard, drill team, 1810. Logan, 700, 800, cross country, they don't spend a lot of money. Football, golf, lacrosse, soccer, etc. And by the way, I know you're going to want to maybe see this. I can, just, all right. My point being is they are being more transparent with this is what we're doing. And it has travel in it. It has participation fee in it. It has drug testing fee in it. It has camps that are offered by the district. Again, if you don't attend it, you wouldn't pay it, but it's there so that you can get a pretty good idea. So I think when we hear from I'm yelling. I think I'm gonna yell. I really do have to stop.
You just talk.
He's coaching.
Anyway.
He's coaching us.
I have some issues with this because it's, when we say 250 for softball, there's at least another $200 to go to St. George that's not listed. And there's participation of another 70 and then drug testing another 10. And pretty soon, we're pretty close to what they're doing. Pretty close. Now, I will also say, I've looked at spending plans of these other districts, and they are not spending that money in every sport right to the brim. What it does is it gives a little latitude so that if something came up, like we have requests right now for some coaches in spring sports at Box Elder that had to make a budget a year ago. And what's happened in the last year in terms of cost of things, they need to increase some fees or they're going to lose money on uniforms because they had to approve it January of 2020. They're not even going to use it until 21 or 22 of March. So anyway, I just wanted to show you all this wonderful data so that you can get a really good feel. Our wrestling programs, I will tell you, we have 2 of the premier wrestling programs in the state of Utah. Both Bear River and Box Elder, and then girls wrestling at Bear River. 150, 900 to our Cash, 600 to Logan, 850 to Weber, 700 to Davis. And these are our competitors. Now, none of our coaches want to gouge people. But what we would suggest, and I'm going to ask for your feedback, and I want the public to share their concerns and thoughts, and I'm totally okay to dig and share and explain. But here is my proposal for this next year. Mind you, academic fees dropped, but I just think we ought to do something like this. Maybe you could look in column left. We would have baseball 800, basketball 800, etc. 800, 800, 800, 800, 800, 800. Stay with me before we have a come apart. Okay? Everybody's the same. Instead of going, we're 250, we're 225, we're 231, we put it all there. And guess what goes into those fees? The Utah High School Academic Association per sport activity maximum includes participation fee, transportation, drug testing, officials, uniforms, equipment, refurbishing, participation packs for teams, off-campus, on-campus clinics, and other associated travel costs. The only thing would be is if for some reason a team made the state tournament and they need to stay overnight. This generally applies to more Bear River because they oftentimes have to go down to St. George. Not as much for Box Elder, although there are a few that have to play it in Orem, and so they might. But anyway, let me show you what I'm suggesting. I'm still going to show that drug testing, I'm going to drop it down $5, but make it per sport instead of 10 per year. So if you play, you're in the pool. If you don't play, you're not in the pool. Raising participation fees to $100 because, and by the way, that'd be 30 more than we just have had for the last 29 years. And then we have noticed that per diem for the state went up, which is why, and also hotel costs have gone up. As we've done in some in-state hotel, things have gone up because of the pandemic. Now, what I would really like to show you, and before you just hold your questions, I'm going to click on, now this is a little raw, but this is what I anticipate. Every sport, every school will have a document on their webpage with a specific breakdown of what it will be per item, and it cannot go over these maps. So if I'll just click on this, shall I? We'll go Box Elder for this example. I just made this, looks really nice. All right, so by July 15th, all of our fall activities will have to have their spending plan posted. It cannot go over the board's approval of 800. Well, cheer would be a little more, but you can't go over it. A parent or a student can click on that link, which will be on their webpage, and oh boy, let me zoom that out just a little bit. Okay, you'll see the school year, the high school will have the coach advisor's name. If you want, we could even put an email address there. So you could just email that coach if you have a question. Here's the sport. This would be the approved fee. And then here's what happens. A participation, $100, drug testing, $5, and then every item that's going to go towards that 1,300 max. That's travel, that's camps, that's everything that's just listed line by line by line. As you add items, this number gets bigger. And so you get closer to it, but every school has it. Instead of me taking everybody's accurate information, I put it back on principals and coaches to say, give me your spending plan. Don't gouge people. We're not gouging people, but if we have a legit, this is what we're going to do. We're straight up. Everybody knows the costs. You know, drug testing, you know, travel. If I'm not traveling, I'm not going to spend as much if I'm not traveling. But if I am, you're going to see it and a parent knows. And by the way, these all are fee waiverable. It's not like we're trying to, if a parent can't meet it, it's fee waiverable. And coaches work with kids and we figure this out. I didn't mean to get too excited about that. But what I want to show you is maybe another example. My daughter plays girls basketball. So I just kind of, based on this year, I kind of played with the numbers a little bit. And I wanted to show you something. Okay. School year is next year. Coach Dooley, it's girls basketball. The maximum approved fees is 800. This is assuming we approved it. So I just did what I know. Participation, obviously, we raised it to 100. Drug testing, 5. They bought a practice uniform of 60. There were team sweats that cost 120. The game day lunches. So on game days, we don't buy any food for our kids, home or away. We just pay $50 and all the food is prepared and we just let our kids enjoy. And if you've never went to 20 games for $50, you do the math. Okay. Banquet is $15. You'd go to St. George for 3 nights, which could potentially be $225. Obviously, we're not looking for the high end, but if it's there. Now, I know that he hosts a summer camp. Is it required? No, it's not required, but it's there. And if you want to participate in that summer camp, it's $100. You add all those together, what do you get? $675. Doesn't mean we're gonna spend 800, but every coach, every activity advisor has to put it in there to say what they could do. Is that a little yucky? Yeah. Ironically, I've had 5 kids. They've all played a variety of things. Many of them multi-sport. This is not unreasonable. I know what I've spent for the last since 2007. This is actually more transparent and more reasonable. So I know as a parent what's out there. Again, we have to make sure that advisors and coaches are not building up. Because if they're not spending on what they're saying it, then that's a problem. And we would have to audit and make sure that they're staying in their budget and that we're not just storing money away for some other cost.
So I have a couple of questions.
Talk to me.
So if it is in one sport, say girls basketball, and they come up with $650, then they would only charge $650.
Correct. They can't charge more than the max, but most likely they'll just charge what it is. And I've got to do this. Oh, okay.
Karen, use your mic. You're really quiet over there.
So if they didn't end up spending all of it, does it go back to the families? It wouldn't roll over into like just a fund, an athletic fund.
They have to spend what they say they're going to spend.
Yeah, they don't just automatically spend 800.
Yeah, they don't charge
Oh,
that.
I got that, but like, if for some reason, another virus that they can't go to St. George, they don't spend all the money, it goes back to the parents. It doesn't go into an athletic fund.
I don't know the answer to that, but if we're not going to go someplace, they can't charge that fee.
Well, no, the year that COVID hit, we had teams that were planning to go to St. George.
Mhm.
They didn't go. So if it's not spent, does it go back to the families? Does it stay in an athletic?
They don't collect.
For trips, they don't collect till they go.
Okay, so that, I just.
But all that other stuff, they know like I'm buying practice gear. But what if it's, like there's a few sports that like if it's your first year you do it, I'll just do an example. When I was a basketball coach, when they were freshmen, we bought practice gear. But we used practice gear for 3 years. So the next year that wasn't a cost. And so if you don't buy it, you don't use it.
So you don't need, my point was getting at, you don't pay like $650 up front. You just pay it as you go, so then the parents know.
But they know where it's coming from and they know what it's for. I will just show you something
Well,
that's kind of,
one thing, Karen, is part of the law. We cannot require other kids to pay to cover fee waivers. So we can't just have a pool of money that covers, it has to be tied to the specific students. So they would collect it as, it's okay, we're going here. This way you know ahead of time what you're heading.
The parents know ahead of time.
Yeah.
this all has to be done
Right.
prior to tryouts.
And it won't go over 800. That's the.
No.
But how is that different than what we currently have?
It's cleaner. It's more, and also get this flex.
We currently had a hover spot and it would tell.
I know.
what it was.
It does. The difference is this is cleaner and it's more legible and it gives some wiggle room when we have the ebbs and flows of equipment costs. Instead of you having to come in and saying, you know what, we underestimated because a year and a half ago I had to put this budget in and now we've got to have you, because I have a couple of fees right now. I need you to adjust because we're nickel and dime and we're getting so tight. I'll just give you an example. This is Mountain Crest High School. This year, their fee that was approved by Cache School District was 800. Okay, they have all their fees listed, all the things that they have. And it came to 419. So guess what they were charged? 419. Guess what they could have charged? 800, because that was the max that the school board said they could. Obviously, they didn't. They didn't travel. It was one of those things. So that's a really good question. We're not really returning fees, but I don't think we shouldn't be even assessing them if we're not going to do it for what we need.
And can I just say something?
Yes, go
I
ahead.
Personally, as a parent who has children, like, how much is the jersey? Like, my son plays golf. How much is the hat gonna cost you? How many, are they gonna get 2 shirts? Are they gonna get 1 shirt? It'd be nice to just say, I kind of have that in my mind. I know it's not gonna go over this. Hopefully it's lower. But like, I wish they would, like, the golf team went to state, but they didn't stay overnight. And so, and it was down in Spanish Fork. It was kind of a hassle. And so some parents stayed with their, I wish
Yep.
that would be, if they had that, they say that we could, parents know, well, that is up to that. So if we go down, we could spend the night, and it makes it better for everybody. But I know that up front. So for me, from my perspective, it's easier to see because I can budget for that amount. But hopefully it won't go up. But I don't like the little hovering over and the.
Yeah, I mean, it was a nice idea. It became, it was something, but I think the better way would be honestly to go here. We'll have this, but every school will have it. We just go to Bearwood High School, for example, and this will be on there. Have a page for fees, and you'll just click on it and you'll be able to know exactly what the fees are. You'll have them up front and they can't go over maximums. Now I see Melanie Day in the back, and it brings me to a question. See, notice when you start looking how we're sort of nickel and diamond, I will just tell you I had some 125, some 132s. We're into like dollar amounts. And I will tell you that there's theaters that are $800 at Davis School District. They have other costs. They're all, now, will they spend them all? Most likely not, but the board's decided we're gonna go a little broad, and we want spending plans, and we want accountability, and we're not gouging anybody. It's not a fundraiser saying we can go to 800. Geez, we get 20 kids to pay $800 and we only spend 400. We're making some good dough. That's not the plan of how this works, and we'd monitor that for sure. So I guess, I'd be curious to see what people say. It looks a little yucky. I'm not gonna deny that it looks a little yucky. But what I want to say is, all you have to do is look at everybody we compete against, and you can see that we are not out of the ball park.
So Keith, I can see that the athletics are you proposing, what about the performing?
Well, I'll tell you what I did. I kind of raised these up about $50, but I'm not opposed to giving them a little cushion. Melanie, without really divulging, could you maybe give me a little how you felt about that? I don't know if I can do that. I just did. Sorry.
We've never included like travel in any of our costs. So like if we get to go to State Theater, it's a 2-day night in a hotel.
That's right. It's going to cost you $150.
Like it's $150. So now that's $250 instead of $100, that's like included in. And it's always been like, you give the parents a disclosure and it says, if you go to State Theater, it's going to cost about this much money.
Yeah.
But parents not parents, I get a ton of stuff. We don't always read everything.
Yeah, it's true.
But you also know it's always going to cost more than you think it's going to.
Well, and I just want to add, again, this is December of 21, and we're making decisions for the baseball and softball team for March of 23. I mean, we're making decisions. And so by being a little broader, it does give us a little bit of, and again, we'll talk to coaches. We'll make sure we are not gouging people, but we are trying to be more like, this is the cost, all of it right here, and here's your spending plan. And then we make sure that people know what it is. But what we've had, there's nothing wrong with this, so here's what you do. You got 200 for baseball and 10 here and 70 more here. And you click on this thing and it says, oh, they tend to travel. Well, how many days are we going to be in St. George? We're going to spend 3 days. Okay, so that's $180. And I've got the 200 here, the 70 and the 10. And oh, by the way, I forgot to put the banquet down.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because not everybody has a banquet listed, but guess what everybody has? A banquet. Why? Because they're not thinking of all those things when they're doing this. So I've talked way too much and I'm missing my daughter's basketball game. But what I wanted to say was I would be glad to share this document to whomever. I don't know if I probably will send it out in an EDGI link so all parents and students can know that this could be a proposal, a draft, and then we'll have feedback in January. It'll be a party.
Okay, so let me ask the board right now, is this something that you feel comfortable in moving in this direction, or are there hesitancies about?
Could you add, could they include what the required, like, if family wants to participate, but they don't want to send them to here, have an asterisk, the ones that are required to participate.
Yeah.
The others are optional.
Yeah, or we only put down what is required. We only list required. Anything that's not required. When I was about, oh, sorry, Kurt.
Say with that, like going to St. George is not required, but for the whole point, I thought that you wanted to put those fees in.
No, I think it is required. It's a game. We're going. It would be required. I don't think you can opt out. What opt out is what we're gonna do this summer.
Well, and you said to yourself, jerseys, I might not need to buy a new jersey because they had them last.
Correct.
So I
And
think
so-
it's required and unrequired. And
Yeah.
I've had kids that took gold to St. George.
So I think one of the things, well, and that's true. I'm just saying, if it's a sport, I want our kids to go. Every one of them. And-
But there's always family activities and things.
Oh, yeah. And I guess if they didn't go, that's fine. No, I understand what you're saying. Yeah, if they don't go, but,
The required, non-required asterisk, I think is a good idea.
okay. I think that's,
And
I mean,
I struggle with the inspired, non-required, because, yeah, there's specific things you need to do, but if you're on the team, you're going to want to do, but as a parent, if you can look through and say, okay, maybe we could skip this, maybe, but so as long as it's pick on Melanie Day. I've had kids, oh, gotta buy a wig, gotta have shoes, gotta have da, 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 da. So while we're in this event, I'm thinking, yeah, we started here and we're here. My girls' softball bags, I think those were $150 just to start, but we used them.
probably bought it once.
Yeah, bought
Lasted
one. We
for a long
put them in
time.
it, but when they bought it at the time. now-
So I think, Brian, just so you know, AJ and I, and we've talked to both athletic directors, I've talked to all secondary principals. And I think their idea is to be more transparent. And they actually brought up the idea of, these are the required required meaning we're sponsoring it, we're gonna do it. Now, if there was a wedding and you can't, obviously we'd work with that, but we're going. And then these are to me it was, I'll just give you one example, sorry. When I was a basketball coach, I had a box elder camp for anybody who was gonna play during the summer. And it was required. It costs $25, but you have to come. If you want to play during the summer. If you don't want to play during the summer, you don't have to come. Now, obviously, I wanted them there. That would be fee waivable and it was sort of an expectation. But if someone couldn't make it because of whatever, obviously life wasn't over, but I really wanted them to come so we could teach them. But they didn't have to go to Utah State. They didn't have to go to Dixie. They didn't have to go to BYU. They didn't have to go up to Idaho. Those are just options. And I think what you're saying is a good point, and I think we can do that.
Well, I just like as a parent, kind of like, yes, we did do 800. Woo! We've got some things out. Because it is, and when you have kids, you anticipate they cost money. They fall out of trees, they break arms, you do things for your kids. It's unreasonable, goes a long ways.
I guess I'm still not convinced that we need to put that much more on the fees. So I'm willing to look at it, but I'm not willing at this point to say, yeah. we
Well,
need
this
that
is just
much.
your cut at it. You need to go back to all of the organizations and have them put a plan together, and then we approve that, right?
Well, no, this is what I anticipate. You're approving maximums. The school board's responsibility is not to approve each spending plan. The school board's responsibility is to approve maximums. And then what happens is there's a note here. Each coach, advisor, supervisor of each activity listed above for policy 5226, which you can actually click, will provide annually to parents and students before tryouts an activity disclosure statement that will give details, including expected fees of the respective activity, club, or sport. These lists are available on each school's website under wherever we're going to put it. So really the job of the board is to approve max. And then the job of each coach and advisor and principal is to make sure that the spending plan that's going to be available on websites do not go over max, and we're not gouging people, and we're being very transparent to what folks are supposed to do. I will say one last thing.
So with the drug test, you've got this all just in athletics. I thought the goal was to drug test students.
No, there are more people than just,
So
there are
that-
more
that
folks.
Drug test will go across to all the other, every group that represents Box Elder.
correct. They're all part of the $5.
So that goes, so they will get that in part of their. pay.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
I don't know if we explained this up front, but this school fees approval requires 2 public hearings, and this is considered one of them. And so the board is not approving anything tonight, and Keith's worked. I would like to think you can see how hard he's worked. I have very good understanding of how hard he's worked, and how many people he's talked to, and the due diligence of working with Davis, Weber, Logan, and Cash, find out, what we're up against. And so he's putting a lot of time. So with him putting it on the web pages and sending it out in our email.
Yeah.
She lost what we call it.
Actually,
Thank you. Then next month, I would assume that there could be more discussion, more questions, more thoughts, more ideas. And that's when we'll have it as an action item next month.
Yeah, and so I think that, I just want to make sure that what we're sending out to the public to be commented on is actually what the direction we're moving in, rather than like, comment on this and then like, oh, just kidding, that's nothing what we're going to do. So I think that this is a good direction. I like this transparency, the way this is working. And like you said, I don't think that coaches, they want to do what's best for their teams and their clubs, but they don't want to just spend a bunch of money, but it's easier to see. So I guess that's why I think this is and we actually do have public comment at this point for anybody who's here that would like to provide public comment about that now. That's one of our requirements to do. So yes, go ahead, Wayne.
As a parent, my kids are older now, but I think it's a good idea to let them know right up front how much it's going to be. Because I remember when I had kids in school, they're saying, oh, 120 here, 50 there, they've added up. How much have they got to ask? Just kept going on and on. So I think we have a limit there, and everybody knows that. I just think that's a good thing.
I'm just gonna reiterate, I thought that's what we were doing 2 years ago when we put the fees out there. So I think this might clean it up. But some of my concern is, I have experience with tennis, and they're used to seeing like 145. So to see a max fee of 800, I think it's gonna be a little sticker shock. I want to make sure that we.
but I might just say, because you have a legit concern. But when you hear 140, and the team went to St. George for 3 nights, it's not 140. It's 140 to buy your uniforms and different things. You have $70 in participation fee. That's not part of that 140. And there's not travel. We have it listed, but you're kind of guessing, geez, are we going to travel? We not? By having the spending plan, down here in these links, in fact, I would think that our coaches should do it more earlier than later. But you should be able to know before I'm going into fall sports, what I'm going to pay. Are we traveling this year or not? I was a head coach for a while. I traveled 2 years in 18 years. So those 2 years, we had a lot more money. The other years, it was a lot less. So anyway, you're right, though. I just think as I looked at Mountain Crest and Cash and other districts and their spending plans, instead of the hover over and
Well, no, I like that.
yeah, so I think it's a better format if we do it. I know it's a problem if we say 800. The natural person's going to say, geez, we're going to go to 800. Geez, I have 3 sports and 5 kids and wow. But that is not the case. It's not going to be supervised.
Well, is there a way when we, because we're going to send this out to clarify, I mean, I guess, I don't know how else to do it, because I don't think many people hover over those things anyhow, like to see the little details. Maybe they do, but because we're going to have public comment, we do want to hear feedback, but I don't want to just hear, I want them to know up front what we're talking about rather than you're gonna charge me $800 for everything, and then we have to re-explain this.
No, I think that'd have to
Wish
be,
there
if I'm gonna send it out, I'm gonna have to have an explanation.
Yeah.
Because I'm not sure we're quite ready to build every little one, although we could put a snapshot. But again, the role of the fees is to approve the max.
Yeah,
And the overall max. By the way, last year this was 2,500. I thought if we go to 800, we probably ought to raise it 1,000. Not that, and by the way, that was in comparison to everybody around us. That was a more natural number.
well, and I think that if we explain that instead of, you don't have to add the participation, the activity, the potential travel, this is an all-inclusive, you know, your
Number.
all-inclusive packages,
Yeah.
people like, know what you're gonna spend.
Yeah.
It's just a little bit more palatable if you understand it that way.
Yeah.
It is
I agree.
the guessing game. So thank you for putting that together. Are there any public comment, those who are here that have any comments or concerns or things they'd like to share about the school fees in particular? Okay,
I just have one. Keith, I was wondering, could you contact a couple of school districts and just ask, how it works for them and if it's been.
I have.
Yeah.
I've been on the phone call with Weber and Davis and Cat. Because it's, number one, it's a big enough umbrella. There's some flexibility, but nobody's getting close to spending their max that I could see on their websites.
Well, and it would give the coaches a chance to do real numbers at closer time period.
Yeah.
Instead of having to be quite so critical so far out, it gives them a chance to make adjustments.
So how late can they make adjustments?
Before, it has to be done before the tryout date. So if it's a tryout date, it has to be done. I'm thinking it should be 2 weeks before the tryout, but we could make that whatever you'd like.
Is that the July 15th,
Yeah.
October 15th? And
This is 2 weeks before the trimester, and then for like school clubs and theater. I know that you have the school play, so that would have to be done.
spring.
Melanie,
Just acting like if coaches get to do it every trimester, that's more like things like choir and band and all of us that go all 3 trimesters.
you should have more.
Planning no, this, I'm not talking about, I say more, but like if I'm planning something and I'm planning for it in August, this is how much it's gonna cost for like state theater in late April, it's hard to know those numbers in advance.
Yeah.
So we probably need.
So for the sports, it's pretty simple, right? But I think you bring up,
Kind of know.
yeah, you kind of know.
This is how much it's gonna cost in the next 90 days. But for things like cheer and rockets and like those things that last an entire year, that's really hard to like predict what things are gonna, well, in our current economic climate.
Right. So maybe for those, we may have to look at, and I don't know what I'll have to ask on what they do for that. I
Well,
can
I'm
ask
wondering if like, because if we outpost, but like, that's one of the benefits of having a larger max is that we don't have to worry, we're gonna stay under the max, but maybe the details come out just prior to whatever the
thing is.
the thing is. So we could work it out that way, but that way it's, you're not trying to
Yeah,
add up all the dimes.
Well, maybe what you just brought up is we kind of have what we'd anticipate for the first
Yeah.
trimester expenses. And then this is what we have kind of going second try for these sports or these activities. They're all year round. This is kind of what we have. And maybe those same deadlines hit. This is kind of what we're talking about. We just keep it on the same document. Or you could even break it down into first try expenses, second try. I like it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Every summer spring sports. That's part of the reason this came.
So
Yeah.
I want to ask this question. I had Jeff Rollins at Box Elder High School has looked at the kids buy the uniforms, but what he put in last year, December, and what he's buying them now, he needs $20 more. Now, upon further review, I found out that his overall fee was not over the max. In fact, it was under the max. So by adding the 20, he's still under the max. So I think as long as they don't go over the max, then we are okay as long as the spending plan per policy 5226 is given to all parents and students prior to that. So I think we're okay. I didn't think if he wasn't, then we would have to ask the board to approve that in January. for an extension.
It's good that he's. Thank you for all your hard work. That is a lot of work and it's quite a, what do you call it? A touch point for lots of people. And it's a,
I wish I could show you what it looked like 4 years ago.
We are making progress, I think.
We are getting better. We're getting better.
Well, thank you. Well, we're moving on to our regular public comment, and I don't have anybody signed up, but is there anybody that had any other public comment that was not related to school fees that wanted to sign up but did not get signed up? Okay, great. Let's move on to our action items. So the first thing we have is our positive behavior plans. And Jackie, do you want to explain those? I know each of the board members have an assignment to review about 6 schools and primary and secondary. And so.
Yeah, this comes from House Bill 58. And all the schools are in the state of Utah have been asked to create their own positive behavior support plan. House Bill 58 is about tobacco cessation drugs, getting kids away from that. And the way that the state wants us to go about doing that is by having positive behavior supports in the school. Mindfulness, social and emotional learning, restorative justice and practices instead of punitive and things like that. So each school came up with plans, what they're doing now, what they want to put in play, and that's kind of what you have had in front of you are those plans. So I've reviewed those, made sure that they fit into the statute as it's written, and so hopefully you will approve those. Are there any questions that you have about that? Yes, Nancy.
So the ones that I read, a lot of them mentioned the bot then.
Yes.
So if you could explain bot then and second step. I know the oldest bullying one, or old, whatever, but I don't know the bot then or second step.
Botvan is taught in the secondary schools, in some of the different, and we also are, this year is 4th and 5th grade as well. The Botvan in 4th and 5th has kind of taken over the DARE program. Do you remember that DARE program? It's now the Botvan program. And in the secondary schools, they address some of those same issues, how to say no, how to stay away from drugs and alcohol and making good choices and things like that. So that's what Botvan is in a little nutshell. Second steps is what we are using right now in our K-5 elementary schools. And it is a social emotional curriculum that teaches just healthy attitudes and approaches to the world around them, how to have those academic and those social behaviors that are necessary to access education.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Okay, we have a motion.
I make a motion that the board approve the submitted PBS plans.
I'll second.
So we have a motion by Wade Hyde and a second by Brian Smith to approve the positive behavior plans. Any other comments or concerns? Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, passes. The next thing we have is our, can you believe it, our calendar for the 22-23 year. So we have it linked there. Do you have any questions on that, board members? If you look that over. I know that Keith has spent some time in and put in some of those extra professional days more strategically placed than, like, we added a couple was it just last month or the month before? And so this time next year, we've kind of got them already in and they're on Fridays.
I saw those and I appreciate those. We had also talked about maybe doing some half days sprinkled through. Is that something that I think we were talking half day Fridays last month? Is that something that we don't know if we're going to get next year as far as the number of PD days, or it just wasn't addressed in the calendar, so that's why I was wondering.
I think as we talked about half days, what ends up happening on half days is we don't do kindergarten, we don't do preschool. And I think that occurred to us. And so it seemed like if we did those half days, we'd lose a lot of kindergarten days and preschool. And that was kind of our thinking. When we talked about it earlier, we didn't take that into account. Is that the wasn't that the rationale we used?
And I thought the half days were more for this year, because the teacher was needing more time. We were gonna see, if we needed that this year, we were gonna go back and collect more data and see if that was really in the, or in the data.
Our feeling from administrators is that what we had was, let's just start with those. And then moving forward, just having these one day, each try. And let's see where that goes. Those will be work days. So as you start looking at, what is that, September 30th and February 3rd and March 17th. Those 3 days would be no school for students. Can I have an applause over there? Okay. And, but it would be a work day.
Yeah, we'll come up.
For, it's all right, I'm just gonna try to keep it going. But it would be a work day for all employees. Training opportunities.
And we have had comments from our principals that half days would almost be better to have no days. Because they don't feel like there's a lot that really gets done on those half days. So that's the feedback that we end up getting.
Okay, I just wanted to know what it was, because at the last meeting, we were going that direction.
That was, yeah, I think that was more for talking about possibly this year.
Right.
And I think, the feeling was, and maybe not go down that road right now.
Okay, any other questions on the calendar? Looks good. We've got our spring break. We've got spring break.
Almost identical
Yeah.
from last year, except for the 3 new days.
Yeah, I think that'll be good. Okay, we have,
I move that we approve the 2022-23 Box Elder School District calendar as presented.
I'll second that.
so we have a motion by Brian and a second by Nancy to approve the 22-23 district calendar as presented. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, fantastic. We have a calendar. All right, superintendent, we're looking at our board meeting schedule and possibly changing our next couple of meetings, the dates we meet.
Board member Summers, son is a senior this year at Bear River High School and he plays on the basketball team. And that's, I believe that's where she is tonight. And they just so happen to play January 12th and February 8th, I believe, wrote down. February 9th. That's our next 2 board meetings. And she wanted to know if the board would be willing to move those Tuesday or Thursday. She said if it doesn't work out, she's fine with it, but she asked me if I thought it would be okay to ask him. I said, it's okay to ask, but if it becomes a problem, she said, it's fine. So is there anybody who,
Well,
yeah.
so do Thursdays, I thought, do Thursdays work better for you, Connie?
Or Tuesdays would be harder for me.
Tuesdays would be harder.
I can't do Thursdays.
You can't do Thursdays.
And I can't do Tuesday.
You can't do Tuesdays.
So in the games every Wednesday.
Wednesday, yeah, they play a lot of Wednesdays.
So we couldn't do the next Wednesday, that would.
Well, it's more than likely. Keith, they are mostly, boys are mostly Wednesday, Friday, aren't they?
Correct.
So I would assume it's possible. I didn't look really hard at the schedule.
But she would miss 2 board meetings, am I right?
Yes, either that or missed a game, so I'm not sure what, because she said if it doesn't work out, it's not a problem at all,
Well, it sounds like we have a conflict because
both ways.
both ways. Karen can't do Tuesday or Thursdays. Some people can't do Tuesdays, so maybe at this point, we should just leave it as is and hopefully the best.
You
I should feel bad.
What the thing she could do is just send us the score.
Yeah.
Let's, you could, you
You
just,
know, that's always been a hard thing. I know that I've missed several concerts and things, and I think Julie missed a couple concerts with her.
Yeah.
dad. So it is hard and we feel, but
And Julie, I philosophically believe when you run for an office, and you commit to be here. I told Julie, I missed the award assembly where my daughter was named Outstanding Girl of the Year for Box Elder Hobby. And then she got in the scholarship, because I was at board meeting. I did cut out before we got to the stuff, we did all the policy stuff, but I think when you run as an official, you commit to do your job for the people. And as a parent, that's really hard. And I have sat with my phone and had the spouse send me the scores. But we make commitments. When, as an elected official, you make commitments and you promise you will represent. And it's hard, but that's why we're here. That's my philosophical bit.
Okay, well, I guess we should just leave them as is for now, and hopefully we can,
You want to just move it, since it's an action item, you want to just move to table it?
yeah, we'll just move to table it, because somebody moved to table it.
We're going to table it, or we just want to?
Just leave that is.
Or just sit, vote that we leave it as is.
Yeah, and I would say that I make a motion that we regrettably vote to leave it as is. And that's really hard.
Okay, so we have a motion by Karen and a second by Connie to leave it as it is. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. All right, next we have our approval of, hey, thank you for being here.
Thanks, guys.
And thank you for the clap, my man.
Thank you for your work.
Put on those merit badges.
Keep blown out of trouble.
Okay, we're going to move on to the approval of the expansion of the Rocket 2 and Steel 2 solar projects. So we've got some representatives here that are ready to explain some of this. And I know lots of board members have already been involved with some of these discussions, but.
How did they make it seem cool?
Yeah, get the problem.
You guys are killing off, we're out.
More than school fees, like what wants to hear that? So.
I just have some updated
Thank you.
numbers in here, schedules, most of them we've gone over previously, but it's give you guys something to look at. So miss anybody? What about for last? Oh, I'm sorry. Well,
Can I get one?
Sure. These are news person.
She's 56.
yeah. So we're here from DE Shaw Renewable Investments. I don't think we have too much to cover tonight. The presentation that I gave you guys goes over the original project areas, as well as the expansion areas. I think the bulk of what we're looking at tonight is the schedule and the updated tax numbers that are at the end of the presentation there. But what we're looking to do tonight is to approve the agreements that are already in place for Rocket and Steel Solar to include the second phase of each of those projects, so that it covers the full tax amount that you guys would be seeing from both projects. So if you, on this page here, this is our Rocket 2 solar farm, which is the second phase. This will also be adjacent to the original Rocket 1 project and is scheduled to start construction at the end of this year or early 2023 and come online in 2023. And then the Steel 2 project is on the same schedule in terms of construction and operation. The schedule for the actual abatement or tax increment financing agreements is to approve the amendment tonight for the plan, and that is the actual project area, so the parcels that are included, and the budget. So that's the increased tax amount that you guys would be seeing. So approve those tonight. Sorry, is that right? Are you approving the plan and budget tonight?
No, just the amendment.
Just the amended area?
Yeah, just the amended area. So maybe if we just take a quick step back. So Megan and I are from a company called DE Shaw Renewable Investments. I think most of you all are aware of the Rocket Solar Project and the Steel Solar Project. Rocket Project is close to Corinne. Steel Project is close to Plymouth. A company called Enyo Renewable Energy was initially developing those. and they sold them to our company, DESRI, about 2 years ago. And during that time that we acquired the projects, we also essentially finished development to the point where we could start construction on both projects. So the initial phases of Rocket close to the ATK facility off of Highway 83, and then the steel facility, which is just off of Highway 15. Those have both started construction, and what we're here to propose is we had additional land, we had additional interconnect capacity, and we have a great relationship with the county. So we're here wanting to do more. And I think the benefit of what we're proposing is we had initial increments agreed to for the first 80 megawatts of both facilities. If we can add in the additional acreage into those first increment packages, we can then keep the deal the same, keep all the terms the same, keep the kind of level of bureaucracy for the district low. But then the benefit to the district is that those additional increment dollars are coming to you all at the same rate. So what we're proposing is let's keep everything the same, but add a little bit more increment that then comes back to the district in the form of additional revenues from the larger expanded projects. So as Megan said, building the first ones right now, the additional benefit of adding the expansions is longer time for construction jobs to stay in the county, keeping more revenues within the county. Obviously, again, more increment coming back to you all. So we see this as the most kind of straightforward win-win for both kind of the extended investment in the county as well as the extended benefit to you all.
Okay, are there any questions from the board? This is kind of a unique project, but we've discussed when we're pretty particular about some of these increment financing, thank you, things, but this has been, we've already approved this and it's kind of unique. And so I know in our discussions, it kind of seems that it's a win-win. But are there any other?
I was just gonna note that this is kind of an improvement from some of the other income finance projects we've done because we get more of the increment up front and throughout the duration. And so I like the direction that that's going. And also in talking more one-on-one, I found out that they already have specific interested buyers, like you say, some of the hospitals and University of Utah.
Yeah, so for the Rocket project, the initial phase, that's contracted to power Facebook's data center operations in the state. For the steel project, that is contracted with a group of Northern Utah municipalities, and then separately also with a group of universities and private customers that do operate in the northern part of the state. DESRI right now is, I think, the largest constructor and owner of projects in Utah. So we have other projects that are contracted with the University of Utah, Facebook, Intermountain Healthcare, and others as well. So I think that the great thing about where clean energy has gone in the last few years since people started thinking about these projects is initially we were looking at a policy mandated market, right? There were projects being built to send power to California because California needed to purchase those renewable energy credits. Now customers want power because it's cheap, which is great. So what we've seen is cost curves coming down to the point where you have University of Utah that understands its own power use very well and says, oh, geez, use a lot of power during the day. It would make sense for us to have stably priced power, not exposed to different kinds of fuel volatility or other kinds of potential volatility. Let's just contract power when the sun's shining because we know the sun's going to shine at least a little bit every day. So economics have definitely played a big role in the way that these projects are now attractive to customers and are also bringing new investment in, right? Facebook's got this data center in Eagle Mountain. It's continuing to want to expand it. That requires new power, new additional purchase.
Part of that, like she said, is the power stays low. So the school district's getting added benefits as far as increased increment and revenue. With that, I make a motion that we approve recommendation for the Rocket Steel CRA expansion.
Okay, so we have a motion by Karen Cronin and a second by Carney Archibald to approve the Rocket and Steels area expansion. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your work on this, and we look forward to continuing this partnership. It's good things.
Thank you very much.
Okay, our next action item is the Lynn School. Rod, do you want to explain that?
Maybe I'll have Corey.
Oh, yeah, Corey's here.
Corey's here. Let's have him. He can answer your question better than I would.
Yeah, so we have a property in Lynn, Utah. And Donnie just said, where's the school in Lynn? I said, it's in Lynn, Utah. So it is approximately 30 minutes north of Grouse Creek. Hopefully nobody asks where Grouse Creek is, because that's about an hour and a half west of Park Valley. So if you, anyway. So we have,
The great
yeah.
part of the county. It's
Park Valley is about an hour from Snowville. So. Maybe it's the changing barometric pressure. So, we have a school, in Lynn, which is a very rural, hard to find anywhere more rural. The school, I'm not sure when we stopped using it as a school. I would say probably from the 80s. But since that time, it's been used as kind of a way station for different state agencies like Highway Patrol and Division of Natural Resources. I think BLM is used it at some point, and they have paid a yearly lease to use that property. They did not renew their lease. They have another building that they have built and that they're using, so they no longer need that land property. For us, it's of no use as a school. Any students in that area are currently bused north to, where do they go, Rob?
They go into Cassia County. So clear.
So that building, it's kind of like a one-room schoolhouse. As you enter, there's a kitchen, there is a shower, and toilet sink, and then the main room there, and then a couple of little storage rooms off to the side. The roof was failing, and so we felt that it was prudent to put a new metal roof on, because we didn't want this process to take long enough that suddenly the building has no value and we have to tear it down, and we spend more by tearing it down. The new roof for supplies was about $4,200, and it took 2 of our maintenance crew 5 days to put that on. So we felt like it was reasonable to take care of that. It has since also been winterized. It is on a well, culinary well, and that well is shared with our neighbor. And the power for that well comes off of our property, off of our building there. Let's see, what else?
Isn't Rod working with trying to figure out the logistics and the legalities of that?
Yeah, so there's nothing that we have found in writing as far as ownership or shared situation of that well. So maybe Rod can speak more to that.
Yeah, the well, I did look back in the property information. The well is legal. We do have a permit. We got a permit to drill a well out there, but I can't find any legal documentation on the sharing arrangement. The neighbor is actually bought a building that used to be an LDS church that's next door. So at some point, I think the school district and the church probably agreed to allow the church to share that well, but there's no written agreement in it. And so he's been sharing the well for years, so we'll probably I'll get in touch with an attorney to write up an agreement before we sell them.
We have rights to the water.
Yes,
Rights to the.
we have a well permit that shows, I think it's 0.015 second foot of rights to the raw water.
And the well is on our property. And it's a 2-acre property.
Actually, it's kind of interesting because I got back in there. The school used to be called the Junction School, actually, even though it sits in land. And they were gonna sell it back. I think it would actually stop being used actually back in the 60s, and they were gonna sell it. But DWR wanted to use it and started leasing it, so. And they have leased it up through the end of November of this year. So with the lease expired, we can't think of any other use for it. And it will just deteriorate unless somebody goes in and buys it, goes out and takes care of it.
Weekend school board retreat. No, I've seen the inside of the building. It is not okay. No. Okay, any other questions or comments?
I just hope that we get enough out of it to cover our costs. But I understand there are already some interested parties.
We were gonna ask that you, as part of the motion, that you understand, our plan would be to go ahead and advertise, take bids, and sell to the highest bidder. And we probably won't plan on bringing it back to the board unless you specify that we do, or there's complications similar to the last sale.
So we would move that we declare it surplus and that we propose it to the highest bidder and you take care of it.
Yeah, you authorize administration to take care of the legal matter with the well and then go ahead and sell, take bids on it. So
Do we have any idea of the value?
no.
$4,200 because of the new roof.
We're gonna ask,
At least 40.
that's where we're starting at the roof cost.
The market will prevail.
But we do have some interest. Tiffany said her father-in-law her father-in-law was interested in it. We've got 3 or 4 people that have expressed interest.
Well, Madam President, yes, I am ready.
I will move that the school board declare the property and building in the Field Junction School as surplus and put it on the market to be sold for the highest bidder, and that the financial administration will accept the bids.
Okay, so we have a motion by Nancy and a second by Wade that we're going to declare the Lynn School as surplus property and authorize administration to put it, to get bids and sell to the highest bidder and take care of the legal. Is that everybody understand? Clear? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Declared as surplus property. Thank you, Corey. Rod. Okay, information items. Robert, you're on the agenda. You're not just behind the camera this time.
I'm not just behind the camera. Yeah.
And it looked better than it looked last night. There's actual stuff here.
Well, good. And Carrie, thank you for being my Vanna. Okay, there'll be a few clicks at first and then they'll slow down just a little bit. All right, so on every 2 to 3 years, I need to present to you a little bit about E-rate and how we are, what we're doing to be compliant with Child Internet Protection Act. Next slide. So first of all, let me tell you a little bit about what we're doing with some E-rate funds. Next. So right now, it's not really technically E-rate. It's called the Emergency Connectivity Fund, the ECF. And it's a lot like the ESSER funds that the government's been providing. So we applied and we got granted $259,000 to put Wi-Fi on our buses. Specifically, the Emergency Connectivity Fund is for providing internet to students outside of their home. Okay, outside of the school. sorry. It could be in their home, so we could send Wi-Fi's home, and we tried that. We had 100 of them, and of the 100, we probably used about 30 over this last year. That has now passed, and we're gathering those back in. Principal said, yeah, we could use 1 or 2 for when we have games and stuff, but we're not really making it. So Jason and I came up with this Wi-Fi on buses, and it's pretty good. You can get, I think 2 clicks should get you to the next part.
So like teams going to games can do homework.
Yes.
And stuff.
The 259,000 buys the equipment and has a contract. Unfortunately, the contract ends in June of 2022. We are right now working on a small technical error of a service provider identification number that we've had to apply for a switch because the information they gave me when I applied was not the correct information, and now we're trying to switch. So we're waiting for that paperwork to go through. Then we can make the purchase and we can get those installed. And then we can determine after that if we're going to, which buses we're going to keep that, depending on, I think they're going to allow us to apply for more funding. We'll be able to keep all the buses, Wi-Fi on all the buses. But if we have to make that decision, it's going to be game buses. It's going to be the bus that goes between Bear River Middle High School and Harris and Snowville. That one, I'm just critical. Definitely Park Valley could use it, but they don't have that much data out there. But I've driven 84 and there's enough data that students can do homework in that 30 minutes that they're going between Snowville and school. So I'm really anxiously going to push that. Here are 2 more projects I don't have numbers for yet. We're going out to RFP. We're going to submit it this Friday. The 2 projects are, first of all, we want to get, hang on just a minute, going too fast. We want to get 10 gigabit speeds to every single access point in our district, okay? What that means is, and E-rate is all about our network. So everything I'm talking about right now is improving our network. Currently, when you grab, you get on the Wi-Fi, you are sharing 1 gig because that's as fast as our pipe will, allow data to get there. 1 gig to that device. And you could have as many as 250 devices on one access point sharing 1 gig. So obviously, if we can increase that by 10 times, we're going to increase that data. We've already increased the number of devices in our schools prior to being able to increase this. So, we've got one-to-one computing, Chromebooks in our schools. It's mandatory that we get our wireless access sped up a little bit. Next one. So trying to remember, yeah, so our one-to-one requires this, okay? So that's the first project. I don't even have an estimate of what that's going to cost. We're going to go out to bid. It's required that anybody that bids on this has to physically come to a walkthrough. December 22nd and December 23rd, we're going to walk through all of our buildings, or at least most of our buildings, so that they know, oh, this one has tile ceiling, this one has a hard pan ceiling. It's going to be, going to cost more. And they're going to have to pull this wire all the way back to our MDFs. So that's the first major project that we're doing. We've been planning this for almost 3 years now. Almost 1,000, not quite, but almost 1,000. So the next phase of this, so we hope we can accomplish this in the next 2 years, and we have 4 years to do it. This next 2 years is mostly going to be hardware. So once we get all of that wire pulled, and that's really increasing the wire from a Cat 5e to Cat 6a. Technically, Cat 6a just can push more data through it. Okay. Once we do that, we want to replace our switches, because our switches is what is where all of the data comes in, and it distributes that throughout all of our schools. And most of our switches are 10 to 12 years old. We do have some that aren't, because we've bought a few since I came, but that would be the next part. We have, next slide, please. We have 1.6, oh, one more. We have 1.6 million at least in E-rate funds that we can spend. Now think of that as a total price. So let's say we spend $1 million of the E-rate funds. We spend that money up front and we get reimbursed 700,000. So the reason that E-rate is so valuable to us is because we're going to get nearly most of that money back, and it increases our connectivity. Okay. So one more, sorry, I was one off there. So that's that last 1.6 million. One of the vendors told me it was actually 2.1 million. So 500,000, but I've seen 1.6. I haven't seen that. If they've increased it, then that's more than I know. That'll just get us a little further down the road. So, all right. So that's E-rate. That's what we can use to spend the money. Next slide. In order to get E-rate funds, we have to protect our children. The SIPA, or Child Internet Protection Act, came about in about 2000, and its main purpose is for schools and libraries to protect students from seeing harmful or getting access to harmful content while they're at the schools. Okay, so how do we do that? Next slide. Basically, we filter. And there's really two ways, right? A filter provides what's called a blacklist. The other way of doing it is a whitelist. A whitelist is basically saying, oh, this is a good site, I'm going to let the kids go here. This is a good site, I'm going to let the kids go here. And I've actually had parents tell me, you need to whitelist, you need to provide a whitelist for the kids at the schools, not a blacklist. A blacklist means, I know this is a bad site, you're not going to be able to go there. The problem with a whitelist is there are so many more good sites than there are bad sites that how can I tell the kids, well, you can't go to these other good sites. So we filter using a service provider that basically has figured out which sites are the bad sites, okay? And they block them. Now, the problem is, of course, is that the bad sites are constantly changing their URLs, constantly changing things. I have seen it change from the same name with the 1 at the end to the same name with the 2 at the end, and a 3 and a 4, and it just keeps increasing. And they can change that, by the second, and these sites just come rolling through. So the main thing is we have to try to block it. It doesn't mean that kids aren't going to get to inappropriate stuff 100% of the time. With a whitelist, you can guarantee that they're never going to get to anything inappropriate. With a blacklist, you can't. But it's a risk that we need to take because we need to allow our students to still be able to search and to research and to find things on the internet. That's the purpose of the internet, okay? So we have to have policies in place, and we already have policies in place. We have an acceptable use policy that goes through basically saying, hey, if you're using email or chat rooms, don't do inappropriate things, don't send inappropriate pictures back and forth, don't use inappropriate words in those, don't hack the system, okay? One of the ways that students hack the system is by using a VPN client. They don't even know what it is, right? And it is so innocent. I was so upset the first time as a dad that I found a VPN client on my daughter's phone. I'm like, what is she doing? I go home or I find it and I pull her into my room and I say, what are you doing on your phone? Because they have to check their phones into my room every night, right? She goes, well, that's what my friend told me to get so I could listen to Spotify at school. Oh, and really that's what most kids are trying to do. They're trying to listen to their music. So that's actually something that I've authorized that we open. We allow Spotify, we allow Apple Music, we allow these. Yeah, could they waste their time there? Yes, but at least it's better than the alternative. Now, if you take a trip out of the country and as a teacher in the district, as a principal, even as a school board member, and you use your Google account that's associated with your email address here, we block you. I'm sorry, because anything coming in from outside of the district into our Google account could be something nefarious. Just know that we do block that. Anyway, so. Okay, this is a good slide to be on. Okay, so we use iBoss. Filters are perfect. Let's see what else. Oh. Okay, I'm down at like the fourth bullet here. When I started in the district, by the way, it's been 3 years. I've been here 3 years. I gave Steve the opportunity prior to my, my anniversary, but he said, I don't have any reason to get rid of you. So I'm here.
I don't know, it's been a little bit, yeah, to exchange a little bit the last couple of days. So.
Oh, it's so great. Anyway, so when I first started, there is a threshold. You can set a notification threshold on the filter to somebody has to receive an email to say, oh, who's breaking the threshold, right? Well, that was completely shut off. And I thought, well, why is it shut off? So we turned it on. And within 10 minutes, I had over 5,000 emails in my inbox. Oh, dear. Yeah, unfortunately, I did not go through every single email. I just mass deleted it. So we had to mess around to figure out where we were at. At first, I was getting still way too many emails. Now I get just under, around about 100 per day. And I get an email if somebody hits the threshold where they're getting blocked, right? 20 times within 3 minutes, I get an email. My procedure is that when I get that email, if I get one, probably not going to have time to research it. If I get 2, 3, 4 in a row for the same student, that message is going to the principal. I look them up, I send them to the principal, and I say, you probably need to call the student. Okay, so those are things that we are doing right now, and that's a procedure. I really want it to go directly to the principal and not have me be the middleman in between. But right now, that's what it is. It is what it is. Okay.
So we have to give double on average.
More than I think we should, but if I were to do research on and investigate every single one that comes through every day, we'd have a whole lot more kids getting in trouble. I promise you that. So, but there's just no way I have time for that. There's just no physical way that I could do that.
I would suggest that when we say in trouble, if you send a message to the principal, they bring the student in.
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
Knock it off. They document it, then the next time around, it will increase the severity.
And it goes back to that policy, that acceptable use policy. Every student, in order to get on our network, to get onto a computer, has to sign or agree to that acceptable use policy, saying, I am not going to go and look for inappropriate stuff on your network. Okay, that's not necessarily, always. So basically the principal's in charge of enforcing that. Normally that's what I do. One time, it was during the soft closure, I received 3 messages on one student. So I looked him up in Aspire and I'm sitting there on my other screen and there's his name and there's his picture. And I'm like, that's such a good looking kid. What's he doing? 3 more messages come in. And I look back at that, and this is not my procedure. This is not what I do. But I looked at that, and the home phone number just kind of, there it is. And I dialed it on my phone. And hello, is this the father of so-and-so? Yes. I said, do you know what your student is doing right now? Well, yeah, he's in class. He's in the living room on the couch. And I said, can you go and just kind of look over his shoulder and see what's really on his screen? Silence. You can tell he's moving. And then there's a gasp, and I got to hang up. We have to have a talk. So I'm sorry, it's out there, and I hate to be the one. This was not in the interview. This was not in the job description. I never knew that this was going to be part of my job, but here it is. So it's part of the filtering, part of there. Yeah. We have implemented something, and I'm kind of seeing who else is in the room. We have implemented another feature of this, of iBoss, and it gives us the ability, so when the student types in a specific keyword, we know exactly what keyword they typed in. I can almost break that down. It's kind of, it's not in code, but it's, you can almost see when they're typing what letters they type and if they pause to try to figure out how to spell something, which you can see exactly the keyword. And I had to go through a list and pick which keywords are going to get flagged, right? I mean, some of those simple keywords are, you know, like bomb gets flagged, right? We have to know that. And sometimes you're just looking for bomb or jacket. Okay, no big deal, right? And you have to investigate that and figure out what are they really doing here. So anyway, that's how we're filtering. That's what we're doing. Is it bulletproof? No. Are kids getting away with things? Probably. I hate to make any accusations and to send that to a principal to call that student in unless there truly is something that I say, yeah, this is a problem. This kid needs to be, you know, have a talking to and get this stopped. Next slide. So we probably go a little bit above and beyond what SIPA requires. It doesn't require us to track and to, you know, the internet use of minors. It doesn't require that, but because of the way the filter works, it creates a log, and I can look that up on that. It only applies to us because we're getting those discounts through E-rate. And anyway, the rest of these goals probably aren't as important, but, you know, we have the ability to go through, we can find out a lot of information. I'm just going to put it that way. I've learned way more about investigating and about forensics and about destroying data on hard drives and recovering that data than I ever thought I would. But it's been fun. Last slide, please, Carrie. Any questions for me on this? So this gives you a snippet, just a snippet of what we're doing every day. You may or may not have heard that in the last 2 days. So Monday, we had a problem with our iBoss filter. There are 3 nodes, 2 of which were down. And because 2 were down, it was like traffic jam on Interstate 15 where you have 1 lane and everything's coming down. So it just brought our network to its knees on Monday. We were able to get that resolved pretty quickly. Yesterday, there was another network problem, but it wasn't our problem or a problem that we could fix. iBoss wasn't our problem either, but we could fix it. This one had to do with Amazon. So Amazon Web Services hosts most all of our educational technology software. Canvas, Nearpod, I could go on, and every one of them was down. And so the teachers said, the internet's down again. Oh, that IT department. 2 totally unrelated things, but happened at 2 days in a row that we had lost instruction time. And it was pretty frustrating. We spent at least 30 minutes this morning just debriefing those incidents and what we could do to better improve that. And yesterday's, there was just nothing. And it took us a while to even figure out what it was to communicate that out to people. Because, you know, Amazon, you guys know about it, right? Because it was in the news last night, but they weren't working.
How did Amazon get to be such an educational?
It's because they're hosting so many different products. And I'm sure that they're hosting and that so many educational software use it because they're getting the best deal, the best price. But the companies they don't really pay attention to who's hosting them. Or sorry, we don't pay attention to who's hosting them. So we had no idea that all our eggs were in one basket. But that's exactly what it is. So that may be questions that we have to start asking when we talk to these vendors. Who's hosting you? Oh, well, we kind of want to go with this other vendor that's, you know, maybe using Google or somebody else to host it because everything was in, yeah, Amazon's web services. And that hasn't happened for 4 or 5 years. So it's been a while. All right. That's more time than I planned on spending, but.
Well, thank you. That was informative and it was very good. You've got a lot on your plate, so thank you for staying.
You're welcome.
Okay. Corey, back to you. Long-term capital outlay.
Okay. Well, your board packet is the updated long-term capital community plan or long-term capital plan. It's broken down into 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and 20 years from now. And
is a product of the long-term capital committee. So last Monday, the 29th, we had the long-term capital committee meeting. And because of the nature of it, talking about the worry about potential enrollment increases, then that's why all of you received the information from that meeting and invited as a listening ear, but not to participate. So this is the same draft that was in there, just updated with the current dates, and in several places, we have the wording according to enrollment needs and or funding and enrollment needs. Because the crystal ball is very foggy, right? There's a lot of construction out there. There's a lot of building going on, but it's really tough to know how many new students we're going to receive in this district because of that construction. So I could go through this bullet point by bullet point, but it's something that you had in your board packet and had an opportunity to look at. Would you like me to go through it item by item, or do you just have questions you want to ask me about it?
I think we're fine if we just have questions. Does anybody have a question about it?
You know, as I look at the 5-year plan, you know, it appears to me that we're working on those things. Those things are very much a part of what we're doing. And so I would say that we're right on track. And if anything, I think we're a little bit ahead as I look at it. But I appreciate what you do. I mean, I think it's important that we, you know, track what's going on in our community so that we kind of know. So we don't get into trouble. We need to be aware of what's going on, which is why, you know, school board members are encouraged to go to their different city council meetings and their different things, is because we really need to be working in unison and understanding each other.
And thank you. And as a little continued information since that long-term capital meeting, during that time, we discussed that for the short term, the way that we would address potential enrollment increases is through purchasing additional portable classrooms. And so the next day after our meeting, I contacted our construction manager and told him that we would be looking at roughly 6 additional portable classrooms. Concerned about North Park and McKinley and Century Elementary specifically, but then also Box Elder and Bear River High Schools. So because of lead times on construction materials and labor shortage right now, we're not confident that those could be built by next fall. But if we get those in the planning stages right now, then we would certainly have them for the fall after that, but crossing our fingers before then, mid-year maybe. So just trying to plan ahead a little bit that way.
And I think that appeases some of our citizens who are not necessarily trusting the direction that we're going. And so it is a truth that we can tell them, is that we're anticipating needing some of these types of things, so they know that we're not necessarily planning on having classrooms, you know, in weird places, like the street or, you know, the next door neighbor's house or something. You know, we are truly trying to, you know, have them in a building that is built for the purpose of education.
And no, I've not found anyone that likes a portable classroom, other than the teacher that wants it because there's air conditioning.
Yeah, that's kind of it.
But really, it's not something that people are excited about. But it's a good short-term solution. And in our district, I think we really are in a good situation. Lakeview Elementary has the most portables of any school in our district, and they have 6 currently. I hear stories about other districts that they
build a brand new building, and within the next year or two, they have 10, 15 portables sitting out in the back just because of growth. So I think we're in a pretty good situation right now. I'm going to keep tabs on this so that we don't purchase more portables than we absolutely need at the time.
Talking to Principal Eakins today, she indicated to me that there are many teachers who love to be in the portable because there's less distractions. And the portables that I've been into they're pretty roomy. And she said there's a lot of teachers that just absolutely love being in a portable.
Yeah.
And it's usually like a fourth grade class, not necessarily a kindergarten class, but a fourth grade class. She feels like there's a lot of teachers that really prefer it.
At Canyon Creek Elementary, which is down by Farmington Station, it's the same model that we're going with Golden Spike. We were down there touring, and the principal, or I don't know, it was principal or assistant principal there, said that they have a certain number of portables, and they actually do a rotation every 3 years so that a teacher's not out there for more than 3 years and move back in the main buildings. And there are positives and negatives.
That's a new enough school, but that's one of those examples of a new school with portables.
Yes.
Yeah. Because of excessive growth.
Yeah, like those did kind of say you put on order.
So I told them tentatively 6. I could adjust that number down if need be. Cost wise, it depends. So like Bear River Middle School, where we put 3 portables 2 years ago, there wasn't any space on asphalt or concrete, and so we had to put them out in some grass, and we had to build a pad out there. But if we drop them on asphalt or concrete that's already there existing, we don't have to build that part of the infrastructure. So best case scenario, we're looking around 120,000 to have them built and fully furnished all the way done.
Yes, it is.
No plumbing. Now, these
Yeah, they do.
have no plumbing.
No plumbing.
All it is heat and air conditioning and almost.
All right, well, thank you. That's helpful information. And I agree with Connie. I think we have been proactive in planning the best we know how. And it's one of those, like you said, it's the crystal ball. We can't let's plan for this, and when the growth doesn't happen, we can't do that. But yet we can't also just wait till it all happens. So I think you've done a good job of trying to anticipate needs and still being conservative with our money and our expenses. So I appreciate that. Any other questions?
I would say too that I think as board members, we need to be really conscious about how we speak about these kind of preparations, and that there is a plan, and that we don't need to be afraid of the future. That this is well designed, well thought through. We're not going to be caught in a horrible state, and our children are going to have a place to have an education. And so I think that as board members, just be very positive about what the school district is doing and be a part of that positivity, making sure that our voices are headed in that direction.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
That's Corey.
Okay, monthly financial report, Rob.
Yes. And I think that's a good point. Let's try not to panic. Okay.
Yes.
We were told the Golden Spike would be full before we had it built. We're gonna have a lot of space in the Golden Spike. Let's just say that. And often we hear people talking, getting all excited because they see a lot of houses and yet they don't have kids in them. So as far as our financial report goes, you probably remember, all of you, well, maybe you got it all in escrow, but you pay property taxes at the end of the month, right? Thank you very much. The school district received $26 million today in property taxes from yes, it was. It's nice. It's amazing. So, the first line there that shows property taxes shows we'd only collected $1 million so far this year in our M&O fund. And now that's gonna, after today, about half of that 26 million goes into M&O. So
who gets the float on that since they were due on the 30th?
they do, but quite a few years ago, there was a law passed, they have to pay us interest, so we get an interest penalty from them, so they pay us for the flow.
9 days now.
They don't get they don't get the flow. We get no reimbursement on it. We have just some yellow cautions in purchase services. We spent some SR2 funds that I hadn't anticipated in the original budget, so we're a little high there. Our property insurance has increased quite a bit over last year. You can see, like everything, things are going up. The next yellow down on page 3 is I put the whole bus order in that school bus order for this current fiscal year in that account, but probably I'll split half of it down to another account. Just haven't done that yet. Other than that, we're about where we expected to be. You'll notice down on page 6, I had, back when I developed the budget, the Bear River High School turf had not been decided on, so I'm over budgeted in that athletic category, but that's the completion of the turf field and a couple of other projects. We're still about the same. We've collected 160,000 so far. We've got some promises when the new that we'll get some more funds when the new tax year, when we change tax years. So, and then we ordered some extra lunch tables because we were social distancing. And so we spent more in equipment with that.
I think she's on many about.
And other than that, that's all that I have in the.
If we're getting extra lunch tables, where are we putting them to social distance?
Just
on stages?
Well, no, there's still room in a lot of the multi-purpose rooms. It's just so you don't put as many kids on the table, or, well, that's what we bought them for. We're not as concerned with social distancing as we were last year, but we ordered the tables, I think, last year when we thought we were going to need them. We were still social distancing when we ordered the tables, and there is still some goes on as we have hot spots, I think. Yeah. Other than that, we're staying pretty well within what the expectations are, and you got to notice we did, because it's been kind of a rough year, and we came out pretty well on our finances for the end of the year. We did do a little bonus to employees, kind of Christmas rings. So
nice.
So appreciate your support on that.
Okay, any questions for Rod? Thanks, Rod. Looking good. Glad you're dealing with all the numbers. Sometimes my head starts swimming when I'm looking at her. I like equations. It's like a list of numbers. I like my household budget actually doing that, but that's just a lot. Okay, board committee reports. I know we've already talked about the long-term capital committee who we've had. Has there been any other committees that have met need to report on what we've done? You've done? Okay.
Well, I can talk. So Bridgerland, they're building So if you don't know, Richland got approved in the legislature and funded to build a brand new nursing building over on that campus. And as the plans are going and they're set to go, and we've got to fill it with students because there's a desperate need for nurses in the state. So they're saying a year and a half, again with COVID and all, building should be up and ready to fill with students.
And where is that?
Richland in Logan. And so they're working, they designed it in conjunction with Weber State because Utah State and Weber State work in conjunction with Weber's nursing program. And anyway, so if anyone is interested in nursing in the next 2 years, send them to Bridge because there's going to be some tremendous, the plans they've shown and the things that are just truly cutting edge and really funny. It's going to be tremendous.
With that, is there an application process to get in? I don't.
For the nursing, you start off with like the CNA, it's the basic classes that we offer here. And then to become, so then you do have to go through Weber or USU and Weber to go on to become more than to become a registered nurse.
So the Richland is kind of the prep.
They have to practice.
It's an MA, it's an MA2 position, and they turn out they actually turn out beautiful.
Yeah.
And more so, and it's cheaper than if they were to go to Stevens Senator or something. They should turn out a really good product.
And with this new building though, they're going to be able to increase their offerings so they can get closer to having that 4-year nursing degree. So it's exciting. It's really, really cool.
So is it going to take them up through the LPM or just the?
I think it's going to take it to the LPM. I don't know, but currently what we're hearing, but it's an incredible deal for the money. And it's going to help all of us.
Thank you. All right, let's move on to our policy review. We have several policies, well, just 2 with no changes, and then several in each of the first and second readings. Do we want to take them, no changes, then first reading, then second reading?
I'll make a motion that we accept the policies noted here that have no changes.
No, second.
So we have a motion by Connie and a second by Brian to approve policies with no changes. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, let's look at the first reading. There are several there. Are there any questions?
On page 2-8. It's not a complete sentence. Personnel costs associated with activity. Reading how it's supposed to.
Oh, this is the one that goes clear back.
Yeah, we had that discussion.
Yes, because the sentence starts in B.
Starts in B
on page 1. So, yeah, we kind of went, this is not a good sentence.
They're on page 1, the Board of Education, because their student projects would be organized at the secondary level under the following restrictions. 1, 2, 3, 4. Folks, these are you said.
8.
Personnel costs associated with
Yeah,
Personnel, not personnel.
personal costs associated with the activity.
So that will permit student clubs to be organized at secondary level under the restriction of personal costs to be organized associated with the activity. That's how it's.
Well, maybe that goes, no, that goes to 4. Sorry, that goes under 4. We went through this.
Well, I think that one we're talking about was actually a different policy.
Oh, okay.
Was it?
Yeah, this one was, the one policy it was that we went clear back, but I think this one was.
Under 4, you would think it would go under 4 because that's the way. I mean,
Yeah, I remember when we looked at this one. I can't remember this was not that one though, but yes.
I don't know. It's just it's a little strange, so.
Tell me again, the 2,
I think we meant to say there are personal costs that
They need to state the personal costs
associated with that. So on 8.
So it's page 2 of 5260, number 8.
Oh, it goes under A4. That's where it all is. We didn't get the numbering off? Because the principal has to submit the following information. And then it has to have the name of the club, what it's for, and it does.
Oh,
Then
yeah,
it's
the personal cost is like, yeah, so that should be like
So that's supposed. to
7. It should be
Yeah,
7
but
under
I'm
4.
I don't know. I just, it didn't read right, so.
I think it should go
Right there.
right there.
This number 8 should go in, there's
Yeah.
everything.
Because those are the things the principal
Maybe just all
with the following information. No, I think that's where it should go.
Yeah, okay.
Recommended club name, purpose, categorization, meeting times, personal costs. I think that's where that goes.
Yeah, because when you go back. whereas-
Page number 2, 8 should go.
Under 4A. Yeah.
To what?
4A. 4A, Kevin.
Okay.
Poor Marcy, we're moving things.
We had it.
She was trying to keep up with
Trying
one
to
that meeting.
frantically, and
Said I have a question, on policy 2020-70, cash receipts, expenditure, and purchasing. It says cash should be verified. What is that asking? What does that mean? I mean, does that look like, hold it up in the light, see if it's actual, it's not a fraud, I'm not. I was reading it, I was just wondering, what is that?
Well, verified means that, you need to make sure that the amount of cash you received and deposit in the bank is.
That be verified by 2 people?
Yeah.
We need to add that.
Well,
It
it
has-
says when caps should be counted by 2 people.
it mentions that on below, but verified means that it should be, that it should match what you've received. Typically.
That is a term that's like a understood term. I mean, I can
It may
understand.
not be an understood term.
It is.
turns out
But-
some states have their own language, we just.
Once again, we follow what our attorneys say.
Yeah.
So, I could review that. and see.
Would you mind looking at that? Tell us what verified means when bring.
Maybe
Bring that back. As a secretary.
Which one?
If it's a professional term, I understand that, but I didn't understand it not being that. Another question I had was on policy 22, 5294, student discipline and searches. Just a question on what it entails. It says, if I understand it right, it says that if the school has any concerns, they can search a locker. Right, so
Yes.
that students don't, they can't see it in it.
Yeah.
If there's a funny smell because somebody left their sandwich in there 3 months ago, we can go look at it, right?
Yes.
And we don't need a search warrant.
No. With lockers, it's very explicit that we their school lockers. So
I just want to make sure that. And then the other question I have is 5312, the non-school and private fundraising and donations. Are booster clubs considered non-school and private fundraising, or are they part of? Are booster clubs part of school? Or it has to be received through the individual school?
We have now made them, they're all part of the school process. They used to be separate, but now they've become part of the school process. Rod, would you agree with that?
Sorry, say again. I was trying to find this other.
All the booster clubs, we're running them through the school district.
Yes.
They used to be separate, but now we're running them through the school district for the purpose of.
We require that a booster club run their funds through the school district because it's perceived that they're part of the school district because they say we're the Box Elder High School football team booster. And so it used to be boosters didn't run through the school district And then we get calls from people saying, how come you're letting them spend money on this? Or we actually had a call where Booster Club rented a copy machine, and then the president of the Booster Club died. And the widow called and said, who's gonna pay for this copy machine? So we just decided we should own it if it's gonna have our name on it.
Yeah, but I just didn't get clearly where it was. I just wanted to know. That's all the questions I have.
Anybody else?
With that, I make a motion that we accept the policies on first reading with the clarification noted in 5260.
Second that.
So we have a motion by Karen and a second by Wade that we approve policy on first reading with the clarifications that we noted earlier. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, second reading.
Can I go back to that verified? It took me a minute to get to it. In the second sentence, it talks about where verification is difficult, cash should be counted by two individuals.
Right, and
So it's when it's a lot of cash and a person, then we encourage them to use two.
I got that, so that's why I'm like, is having two people do it different than verification, because that is what I thought verification was, two people. Make sure that the deposit.
Typically verification was like the receipts, making sure that it balances before you take the bank and having the receipts. So if you keep counting the money over and over again, you can't get the same amount twice. Then you need to have another person help you do it.
Maybe just a. Okay, any questions on second reading?
I move we approve all policies under second reading.
Okay, so we have a motion by Brian and a second by Connie, excuse me, to approve policies on second reading. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, let's move on to our book study. The chapters, we're just finishing this up. Time to change, and I sent you out a couple of questions, and you can answer those or you cannot. It's your choice. It's just something to think about. I thought these were interesting chapters and really useful, I guess. But the questions I asked were, what can we as leaders do when there's still some people resistant to change, even after we've talked about the why, the how, and the who, which was the first 4 chapters. So what are some of the do skills we need to get results? And then I kind of put an introspective question there, but you can share if you'd like. On page 112, there's a graphic of these 4 transformational leadership skills: the who, what, not who, what, why, who, how, and do, and kind of give examples. What are you most proficient in? What would you like to improve? That if you want to talk about that or not. So those are the questions, and it's just if anybody would like to share what you got out of this. As far as I will just share, one of the things is I didn't realize that. I guess I kind of did. I didn't think of it this way as doing being a skill. Like I consider all those other things like skills. How you persuade, how you get people, and actually being able to. When they resist, that's a skill. That's a skill you have to learn how to do. So I thought that was, and I thought it was interesting. They had the resist protocol. It was actually called resist because you're working with people who resist and not what those things stood for. But I think the bottom line that came out for me was that, you know, as leaders, you have to be accountable and make the change and be willing to hold other people accountable to those things as well, and in the best possible way you can. But that's a reason you can't just say, oh, you know, you don't like this. Okay, we'll try to do it without you. We still are, if we've decided this is a district or it's a school or whatever we're doing, we are trying to, if this is something we determined was a priority, we need to make a change, then we're not just going to say, well, it's okay if you don't do it. So that's kind of what I got out of it.
Can I add?
Yes, please.
So I enjoyed this because I struggle with how to get adults to do what I think they ought to be doing. And so I really enjoyed this, you know. But it says illogical resistance will eventually call leaders into a battle of will. This is a fight the school leader must win, because to allow resistor to operate in school culture in the midst of effective transformation is akin to sanctioning behavior. And I think this is the part where we talked about the older teachers that, can you just let me float? And I hate confrontation, and I don't do it well. But I think there's a point where this is the line in the sand. And we have to stand up and we expect our people to do it. And if we let it slide, we lose the battle.
I think if I could jump in really quick on page 85, right close to the bottom, right above where it says canold, there's a really nice statement. It says peer pressure and the distaste of letting down a colleague will motivate a team player more than any fear of authoritative punishment or rebuke. And so one of the things that I know our principals do and what we do is we work hard on the why. Why are we asking this for this initiative? Why? We collect the data. If we do this, just like the letters that was discussed earlier, that program, if you do the work, you're going to get results. And ultimately, once you get your collaborative teams together, when you have the why down, then that group will pull along those people that we just talked about. You've heard me say this before, and I actually kind of had a big reaction when I spoke to I believe it was new teachers, or was it K3 and then 4, 5? I've heard people classified as teachers as about 45% of them are thoroughbreds. And they are just out there running hard and they're going hard and you almost have to hold them back a little bit. Another 45% are workhorses. They just work hard. They're steady and they just keep going after it and they just keep going. And the other 10% are another breed in the horse family. We keep flying at it. I won't say in a public board meeting, but that's kind of become a little bit of a model throughout. Don't be that 10%. Get up here in a workhorse, because we don't need everybody to be thoroughbreds. That drives me crazy. But if we can have those workhorses doing the job and thoroughbreds kind of cutting their teeth on some new things, then that, and ultimately we hope that we can have that culture of accountability that makes people want to be part of it, instead of the principals having to hammer them to get them to do it. That's much more effective and it really works much better.
Surely, you have to go along with what the superintendent said. When PLC first started, remember when we get the first test results and we see the data and everything, and you could see the teachers that were doing things well and those that were struggling. And I was amazed sometimes. I didn't even need to step in. I mean, the team would come together and they say, okay, we need help. And they would take it on themselves in a very encouraging, positive way to get their schools up. And in most cases, it would work in a very positive way. So.
Thank you.
I have a comment on page 89 that says, fortunately, while vast research is centered on accountability and steps that leaders should initiate, attempting to hold others accountable in reality, you school leaders have received training on the skill of initiating and conducting tactical confrontation. It seemed like Superintendent Tallman tried to do a little bit there. He did a little training with us as board members. But I'm curious if there's some work we ought to do there as a district, if we fit into that, like everyone else, that maybe our leaders need a little bit of training on how to deal. Because like Nancy said, I think all of us, well, not all of us,
You don't live George Brennan going in.
Interestingly enough, in each board meeting this year, I'm taking a portion to talk about leadership. And tomorrow, I'm actually talking about this particular chapter. And that's what it is. And it's talking about that. I do know in other districts, and we haven't done it here, is on page 88, it talks about crucial confrontations and there's crucial conversations. There's a whole series. And that's something, I think we need to look at, because I think in education, we are a people-pleasing group of people. Yeah. And it is hard for us to confront somebody that's really not getting the job done. And so, hopefully we're working on that. We're thinking about it. So I do think that's something that we are working on. And I found, as I try to relate and help the principals and the people around me be better leaders, a lot of times I end up focusing on things that I wish I was better at, and so I realize that I'm much better now that I'm much older, you know, that I'm a little bit mellow, unless it gets to a certain point, then I'm really not very mellow. So to be able to do it in a, you know, friendly way, or, you know, at least a professional way to help those people come along is much better.
And I'm going to answer maybe both questions in one, and that is on page 85 at the top. It says accountability has become a dirty word. People often associate accountability with the image of a big brother micromanaging hardworking educators while simultaneously disseminating insensitive repercussions for not meeting expectations. And I think that it's because of that stigma, that would probably be the part, you know, he says, which one are you good in, which one are you not so good in? Probably that is my not so good, because there is that stigma that if you, and yet I know people that that's their asset. They can talk to you and probably tell you what you need to change, and at the end,
You're motivated, want to.
right, you know, it's like, so.
Well, I think No Child Left Behind brought about the accountability with that negative connotation. And that's put a bad taste in educators' mouth for the last 15 plus years. I think it's right. Maybe even, it's been 20 now, we've had No Child Left Behind. So now it's the Every Student Succeeds Act, you know, so trying to do that. So, and I do think it's a more crucial time now than it's ever been in education for our teachers to be successful. And we've got, you know, I hear some of my colleagues, I've been around a long time, some of my superintendent colleagues said, you know, education used to be a lot more fun than it is now. But I don't know if it was as crucial then as it is now. It's so crucial because of, you know, of our society and situations that we do a good job and that we help every student succeed. So it's important that we do this. And, you know, in our principals meetings, we spent quite a bit of time talking about these types of things. You know, they work with each other, and I know they talk to each other. Keith's a great resource. He's constantly on the phone and there's a lot of that going on when people aren't doing, you know, I look at all of our classified positions, our ESPs, are how we are working to help people become better at what they do. So there is a lot of work going on that we don't see, but it is a tough one.
And I think and this is just from a parent perspective, like I listen stew a lot of times about like, oh, we need to talk about this and I don't want to have this conversation. But when I sit down and say, okay, I'm just gonna be the parent, I'm gonna take, and I actually approach it without a like, you're dirty little, you know, I sit down.
Yeah.
But I don't react what you do before. But when I react instead of act and say, okay. And I could just think of a time recently, it wasn't a big deal, but it was something I'd been stewing over. I was like, I just need to talk to him. I just need to sit down. And it was a great conversation. And he agreed with 90% of what I said anyhow. I was so worried about the confrontation. And I think that's true in a lot of settings. I think sometimes we're just so afraid to speak the truth and hold ourselves and others accountable. And we don't want to come across as like, I know better than you or whatever. Now as a parent, I do. I want him to know that I know better than him. But, you know what I mean? Like in a colleague situation, I'm not going to go to the superintendent and say, hey, dude, not okay. But, you know, but
you're my boss, you can.
But I want to do it in a way that, do you know what I mean? And so I think learning those skills is valuable. So, yeah.
Julie, can I mention what and maybe it was just because of something that happened today. I'm on page 114, 115, and much of what you've said I thought was incredible, but I have experience today. So at the very bottom of page 14, it says all adults who work in the Greenfield Union School District have a responsibility to break them free. And what they're talking about is breaking these children free of this poverty cycle that you can see over here on 115. And we know that our teachers are learning the value of connecting with our students, right? Of going into their homes and getting to know them. And I think that's part of this, breaking them free from this poverty cycle that some of these children are in. But today, I happened to talk to a lady who has just very recently adopted 3 little foster children. And this just broke my heart today. She said, the 3 little kids that I have adopted, me and my husband have adopted, she said, they have never, ever had a Christmas. Now, all 3 of these children are in our school district. And she said they've never had a Christmas because Santa Claus doesn't come to foster children. And so this year, her children are going to be able to have Santa Claus. And she told me and my husband, she said we went way overboard, but these little kids are so excited because someone connected, someone has taken them out of that poverty cycle. And she said, so our kids, our children now that we've now adopted are going to have Christmas because they're no longer foster children because foster children don't have Christmas. I was like, oh, it just got me today. So then I flipped to this page because I had just looked at that and I was like, I need to. So that's my Christmas.
Thank you. Any other comments or discussion?
Julie, I need you to come to my house.
Oh, yeah. I'm not qualified for that. My oldest is 15, so.
Yeah, but this referring, I'm fluffing right around.
For those, I can't control.
Can I just say one more thing under board discussion?
Yeah.
I have received several emails and phone calls just saying thank you for the one-time salary enhancement. And I just wanted to pass that on, that it's recognized and appreciated, and hopefully our teachers and our support staff know how much we appreciate them and recognize all the hard work that they're doing.
Sweet, thank you. Okay, now our book study, we finished this book study and I believe that, did we order that other?
I didn't.
Oh,
You guys had a suggestion.
yeah,
What was that? Can you tell me?
not to be a terrible board member or something like
It's
that.
the one that what they discussed at
At our training.
Leadership Academy.
Let me ask Marcy. Well, I think I might have.
Okay.
As much fun as this has been, I'm ready.
I feel like that one.
Move on
that,
to doing something.
Principal Taylor brought.
Oh, the way.
It was
we're
really
looking.
good.
And-
But funny, you read a lot there.
Yeah, that's really good.
That would be good. And the book Grit, I think we enjoy reading Grit too.
Okay.
So you want me to check on this one?
Check on it, yeah.
They recommended that.
Yeah, that was a workshop that it was several of us that did that. And if there were small chapters, doable chunks, and something that's very applicable to us, our situation right now, so. Okay, on to our consent items. One thing I know with the minutes, we need to amend this to say that Nancy was excused last week because she had talked to me about.
Really was.
She was, I just have the memory of a snail. I don't know what, because after you said that, I was like, oh yeah, she did say that.
Well, I had several people say, so we missed you, were you not coming? I thought I told.
Rod, do you have that?
Yeah.
I missed you all dearly, kind of, but.
Not really.
It was a lovely.
Make a motion that we accept the consent items with that change.
I'll second.
Okay, a motion by Karen and a second by Brian to accept the consent items with that change. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, suggestions for future board meetings. I know that we've got the school fees coming up again for our second reading, and that will be interesting to see what kind of feedback we get about that. I'm interested in that. And then we have a pretty full January meeting.
Just gonna ask, were we mentioned talking about the EB schedule last time?
Yeah, so we had a meeting after last board meeting, we were going to table it, and we've met with principals, counselors, administrators, board members, and decided it needed to be a longer discussion and need to take to the teachers and get some more feedback and things like that. So that's kind of in the works. So we're not doing that right this one. Yes.
And one thing that I, from that same meeting that I've had a couple of teachers from that have asked me, we did decide at that meeting that it would not be instituted in next school year.
Yeah.
So, just so that maybe is on the record, if it does change, it would not affect next school.
Yeah, it's got to be, we need the, because we'd have to have that decision by now or January at the latest, and we just don't have time to get what we need for that. So yeah, it wouldn't take place until 23. I can't keep track of years, so yes. Thanks for bringing that up, though.
Yeah.
So I just, not on future board meetings, but at the events, are we still doing the December 13th?
Yes.
Yes.
I have never got a hold of the third gentleman, but I will double check with the other two just to make sure.
And that's at 5:30
Yes.
on Monday.
Trying to my 37. Right over here.
You will be.
Oh, do we have anything in particular that we're asking from our district, just to get to know you? What, I know that it's always good, that's what we have to hear, because there's something in particular for our district. We're all on the same page.
Well, I do think, I'll have the JLC's pamphlet, right? I don't have that right now, but I'll get that, make sure we have that, highlight that. Thank them for last year's WPU increase and all their support for the ESSER funds and all that. So I think,
You and I talked a little bit at the end of last meeting. When Bermondsey came and presented and said that the legislature had given them kind of a pass to extend, maybe with it like 4 or 5 increment financing. I think that was unfair to the districts because they didn't even tell us that they were extending them. So
that'd be a good discussion.
Oh, when they came and did the.
Yeah.
And has Marla, have you talked to Marla Young? She said she needs to meet with us.
Okay.
On the district.
Have you, Rob, by any chance?
I haven't. Well, I did talk to her and she said she was working on, that was clear back in the summer. What's going on with the redistricting?
I ran into her just before we left and said, I'm gonna be gone for 2 weeks and I'm going to miss that. And she said, oh no, she had other things, but it would be the first part of December. So I had one.
Oh, definitely, because next November is.
It has to be, it has to be the county commissioner.
You know what's driving the redistricting?
Oh, it's the census, it's the 10-year census.
It's the census.
It's the 10-year, we were involved in this before, so that every 10 years when they reallocate and we see where everybody's living and what they are, and have to make the appropriate changes. So they try and keep, so particularly for school boards, they try and keep all of our districts with about the same number of people, which is why Tiffany represents lots of jackrabbits. Trying to keep. No, it's not geographical area, but they want each of us to represent a similar number.
The census drives that to.
And that needs to be done because like people file in
March.
Yeah, but I think the county commissioners have to approve it.
Okay.
January.
Well,
So was it Connie and I were, so 10 years ago, we met with her. She just wanted to know where we all lived to make sure as they drew lines and all that we were in the appropriate places so that nobody got out.
That happened once in North Summit. They moved it one block and we control over it. Somebody lost their position.
No, really. So that can happen. But she said when like I said, we were standing in the grocery store, so it was
Okay.
detail.
But
But she just said what they're really anxious, as Connie has mentioned, the growth. If we know what growth is happening in our areas, in our district, because I know back in Brigham's got double the numbers that Tremont has from what he said was at that meeting on Monday. We got like 760 applications this year and you got like 360. So she wants to know if we know, from just being in our area, what areas are being developed and who's what and where, and just so they can kind of get a sense of.
We don't formally need to approve anything, just.
No, we have no right.
Information sharing.
Yeah, it's just to see.
And just a heads up, this was in the paper, I didn't like any, for those that are running this next time, that the sign up is on Monday, March 7th, starting at 8 o'clock, and it ends on Friday, March 11th at 5 p.m.
Who is that?
That's myself, Aaron,
Julie.
Aaron, Aaron.
We're doing this three this time.
Three. Yep. And then the USBA conference is January 6th through 8th. So that's right before our next board meeting. That sounds solid. Did you all get the email invite to the Zions Bank
Came today.
If you have to like email to, I have never seen that before, but maybe in the past they have, but.
We
the
are
RSVP.
trying to arrange dinner Thursday night.
Thursday night.
So I think I got a chat from Marcia, but she was working on that, and she probably has.
Thursday night. Okay. And then our,
I'm sorry.
oh, you're fine.
Might probably need everybody's help on, Friday morning to hand out candy bars.
Setting things up tables.
And there is gonna be a primary, because there's 3 people running, so there will be a vote, and then we'll announce it Friday night. And the next day, whoever is in the finals get to give another little speech, and then they'll vote until noon.
Okay. Well, I'm ready to help.
So I may need to hand out candy bars 2 days if I get past the primary.
Yes.
And a lot of schmoozing, schmoozing. That goes a long way. Hey, our guy's running, consider.
I think we should have Keith introduce you.
For sure. Okay, if you'll notice, we do have that Monday, the work session meeting with the legislators on Monday, December 13th, and then the next board meeting is Wednesday the 12th. So
That's at 5:30, right?
5:30. it is. All right, so we have the
Motion to adjourn.
Okay,
I second that.
hey, Karen moves to adjourn, wait a second, all in favor? Aye. Okay, thank you.
Can I make a quick comment? I'm gonna stop recording. I need you guys